Hey Gator fans. All right, so it's Victory Sunday. Yesterday, the Florida Gators pulled off the big upset win over Texas, probably the biggest win of Billy Napier's career, definitely the biggest win of the season, considering we only had LIU to compare that to, the special win for Florida. So I've already done a video talking about, or a short yesterday, talking about the timeout that Billy Napier called in the in the final in Florida's final drive of the game yesterday. So I want to address that first before we get into anything else about the football game. I went on that rant because I thought Billy Napier saved the time for Florida, but as the rules have come out and more context was added, what happened was this: a player for Florida on the offensive line lost his helmet, so therefore the clock was automatically stopped, and the option to get a 10-second runoff went to Texas, and instead of it taking time off, it would have given Texas the option to add 10 more seconds. So I think what it was is that Florida had the option for the 10-second runoff, but it would be to add time in Texas's favor. So instead of it being a minute 14, it would have been a minute 24. So what Billy Napier did by calling the timeout was he ensured that Texas would not get any extra time, and it would allow his player to immediately come back into the game rather than add 10 seconds and have his one of his starting linemen come out for a key play on third down. So that's why he took the timeout. After hearing that and understand that, I'll say, okay, I was wrong for saying Billy Napier should not have called the timeout. If those were the choices he had, he made the right choice in calling the timeout in that sense. I didn't know that at the time, but when you know information, you got to update your stance. So now having to address that, now we can talk about the game, and I want to talk about both the positives and the negatives. Since Florida won this game, I'm going to end with the positives and start with the negatives. So negatives was, even though I changed my mind on Billy Napier's final timeout, I will say the timeouts were still an issue in the sense that he burned two first half timeouts when Florida had the ball and was driving in Texas territory, and then he burned the timeout at the end, and then that prevented Florida from getting one last possession before halftime because Texas got the ball to start the second half in the third quarter, meaning. So the first possession timeout and then the second possession timeout, and then first scoring drive timeout and on another scoring drive timeout, and then when Texas had the ball last before halftime, he let 14 seconds run off the clock before calling that third and final timeout, which could have saved Florida maybe another punt return or something like that, maybe 15 more seconds for one more punt return, or even try a Hail Mary towards the end of the halftime. So I think he mishandled his timeouts in the first half. I've changed my mind on what I said about the timeout, the second and the final timeout that he called. But I will say this: I still think he needs to get better at managing the clock. To me, he's still not good at managing the clock. Another negative was the penalties again. Ever since that LIU game, Florida has continuously burned himself with penalties. Maybe not so much in the Miami game as they did LSU or South Florida. But in this game, they were just lucky enough to overcome it. So many times they've had drives stalled or drives even extended for Texas because of the penalties, false starts, making 3rd and 3s into 3rd and 8s, illegal contacts making 3rd down stops 1st downs, and there were just still some bad penalties. I think Florida had like 10 penalties for 70 yards in that game. Texas did more, and I'll get to that in a second. But if you are in year 4 and you preach about the process and getting things right and the quality of the product itself, and you're still getting penalties that's hurting you in the critical moments, that's not good for a coach that's in year 4 and for a guy that's been a head coach for 8 consecutive seasons. That's not good. That needs to be addressed, and that needs to be fixed. So penalties was once again a problem for Florida. And I hate to single out players, but in the negatives, Cormani and Hayden, man, y'all made big mistakes that really hurt Florida. I mean, Cormani, you talked way too much trash for a guy that did not play that well in this game. You played well in the Miami game, and you showed heart in the LSU game. But in this game, it wasn't your best performance. And I get it, Texas got some real good receivers, and they're really fast, but you didn't perform well, in my opinion, in this game. So you might want to clean up your performance before you start talking trash to the opponent's wide receivers. Hayden Hansen, you fumbled it, which caused Texas to get back into the game and make a 10-0, which could have been 13-0 or even 17-0 into a 10-7 game. That fumble you had right there, that was a 14-point swing. That fumble was a 14-point penalty turnover. You can't, when you're catching the ball and you see a defender right there, either you got to tighten your grip on the football or you got to lay down immediately and not give them the chance to knock it out. That was a costly fumble on your part. So I think those were probably the biggest negatives of the game. In terms of positives, there was a lot to go on because obviously you won. Start off with the freshmen. The freshmen showed out yesterday. Vernell Brown III is continuing his impressive freshman campaign, is looking just good and good every time he steps out there. Dallas Wilson had probably the best freshman debut for a wide receiver Florida has seen since maybe Percy Harvin, and that's saying a lot. He, to me, was the player of this game. 6 catches, 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. That one touchdown that he scored against Texas reminded me of Ryan Williams' touchdown against Georgia last year for Alabama. The cornerback on Dallas Wilson's second touchdown, the cornerback slipped and fall, which allowed Dallas Wilson to get open. Good job by DJ Lagway for recognizing that. He catches it. The defender's trying to knock him out of bounds. He stays in bounds, fights through contact with 2 defensive backs for the Longhorns, and stays in bounds. Does a great job of keeping his feet in bounds to score the touchdown and finish in the end zone. Very superb performance by Dallas Wilson. Duke Clark, a backup running back, he came into the game because Jacoby Jackson was out due to an injury that he suffered, and Trayon Webb has still been out since he hurt his leg in training camp. I think they're going to give him a medical redshirt for him to come back. I really want to see what Trayon Webb can do. But Duke Clark came in, or Walters Clark as his real name is known. Walters Clark Jr., a.k.a. Duke Clark, came in there, number 20, and showed some really good nimble feet. Knew how to end drives by getting that extra second, that extra yard, or that second extra yard, and help get Florida some critical third down shorts right there. He's going to be a very good player. I've criticized Billy Napier over a lot of things, but I don't question his staff when it comes to running backs because they've had a revolving door at that position for the last 4 years. So the freshman, to me, really stood out. And Jaden Woods had a big hit on a tight end, what was a tight end screen, and he recognized it and snuffed it out quickly for what was only a 1, maybe 2 yard gain, which had the potential to get maybe a first down and a big play for Texas. Speaking of Duke Clark and his running, Billy Napier finally committed to the run game. 65 plays Florida had yesterday, and 37 of them were runs. He finally committed to the run game. I've been asking him to do that for the longest. Jaden Ball showed what he can do, balled out as well. Obviously talked about Duke Clark, and even Vernell Brown, who I mentioned earlier, got a run for 14 yards on the first drive for Florida in the game. So he finally committed to the run game. The pass rush, to me, had the biggest improvement of any department on Florida's team yesterday. Regardless if they were sending 4 guys or if they were actually blitzing, they were all over Arch Manning yesterday. They hit him, whether it was the 6 quarterback sacks, which is a season high for them because they had 3 heading into the game and they doubled that in that game alone, or on plays where he made an errant pass because the pressure got to him. George Gums hit him in the chops, which made him overthrow a wide receiver that was wide open for Texas. It would have been a clear touchdown. Jaden Woods, the freshman that I was talking about, hit Arch Manning in the shoulder as he was throwing the football, which almost resulted in an interception for Bryce Thornton. The pass rush again, Tyreek Sapp was able to get some hits. Mekhi Burrow, the sophomore defensive tackle, he got his first quarterback sack as a Florida Gator. Devin Moore got a quarterback sack in this game as a cornerback blitzing off the edge. It seemed like Arch Manning had a hard time with the nickel defensive backs coming in and blitzing off the behind the edge rushers. Sharif Denson had some nice pressures as well. let's see here. It was Makai Burrow got a quarterback sack. I think Miles Graham got a quarterback sack as well, or maybe it was a different linebacker. Maybe it was Jaden Robinson. But there was about 3 or 4 Gator defenders with a quarterback sack in this game, or at least with half of a sack in this game. The pass rush was very good. I think they hit him like a dozen times in this game, and they just made Arch Manning's process speed up more than he wanted it to, and they made him throw the ball, make some errant throws. And Devin Moore, who I talked about in the fourth quarter, balled out. He really showed up in that critical quarter. That drive where I said he had the quarterback sack, he finished that drive with the interception. So he had a sack and an interception on the same drive. That was, to me, his best game in quite some time. DJ Lagway had his best football game as a Florida Gator, in my opinion. I think he was like 20 for 27, 250-something yards, 2 touchdowns, and the interception. I don't like the interception, but hey, other than that, he performed pretty much well the rest of the entire game. Maybe he's finally starting to get his confidence back, and I hope so for the rest of the season, so Florida can go back and can finish things off in the right direction. DJ Lagway balled out. Special teams finally came through. In this USF game, Florida had a safety that helped USF win the game by 2 points because the Rocco Underwood snapped the ball over the punter's head. In this game yesterday, Taylor Spirito, a walk-on wide receiver for Florida, blocked a punt, and that punt and the football went out of bounds in the end zone, which caused the safety, which allowed Florida to get 2 points right there. And that was a big component of the game because that safety, what it did was it made it a 29-21 game. So if Texas were able to score a touchdown towards the end, they could go for 2 and tie it up. If they didn't have that, Texas scored a touchdown, they could have just kicked the extra point and win the game. So it all comes back down to the little things in a football game that could really affect who wins and who loses. On the blocked punt, I guess there was a miscommunication between the blockers in front of the punter for Texas, because one guy looked like he was going to block Spirito, but then he went towards the other guy. I figured he was going to hold Spirito enough for the guy to block the inside, and then Spirito squeezed through the both of them and then was able to block the punt. So, and that's the first time Florida has blocked a punt in who knows how long. It's been a long time since we had that. Under Urban Meyer, blocking the punt was a priority. And under Will Muschamp, there were times where we were able to block field goals and block punts as well. It's been a long time since Florida's had a chance to do that. So it was nice to see the special teams come through for Florida and finally make an impact in the positive direction for Florida instead of hampering Florida like they've done in years past. So congratulations to the Florida Gator team. 2-3, biggest win of the season, probably the biggest win of Billy Napier's career. Now they're on the road in College Station to face Texas A&M, and we'll see where things go from there. But let's just enjoy this victory as Gator fans. Yesterday was great to be a Florida Gator. Congratulations to Billy Napier, and congratulations to Dallas Wilson. You were the player of the game, my friend.